Before age 4, most of the advice you hear about getting your child ahead is to teach letters, numbers, and sign up for the right early learning classes. But what if we told you that's not proof of their development? Keep watching because many early schooling advice get this one truth completely wrong. Most parents are quietly sold the idea that early academics equal future success. If your child can recite the alphabet sooner than others or count farther, it feels like proof you're on track. That's how you end up in a race you never meant to join, with flashcards at breakfast and apps promising to boost IQ before preschool. What's often missing from that picture is this: the children who thrive long-term are usually the ones who feel secure, connected, and supported, not the ones who memorize the most at the earliest age. Researchers estimate that in the first years of life, a baby's brain makes more than 1 million new neural connections every second. And by about age 5, roughly 90% of the brain's growth is already complete, which is why these early emotional experiences carry so much weight. It helps to imagine your child's development like building a house. You don't start with curtains and paint. You start with the foundation, then the frame, then the walls. Reading and math are like the decor, important but useless without something solid to attach to. In the early years, your real job isn't to stuff in as many facts as possible. It's to pour that foundation: safety, trust, curiosity, and connection. When that base is steady, the academic pieces click into place later with far less pressure and far more joy. Underneath all the milestone charts, there's a simple starting point. Before your child can learn well, their body needs to believe, "I am safe." Not in some abstract way, but specifically with you and in their everyday environment. Safe enough to try something hard, melt down, ask for help, and still feel wanted. When a child feels regularly ignored, rushed, or shamed, their nervous system slips into protection mode. The brain regions that scan for danger wake up, and the ones that handle focus, memory, and language step back. You can sit with the prettiest alphabet poster in the world, but if their body is braced for impact, the letters won't stick. In one long-term study that followed children from kindergarten into adulthood, each single-point increase in a child's social skills rating at age 5 was linked to about a 54% higher chance of finishing high school and a 46% higher chance of having a full-time job in their mid-20s, as well as lower odds of later criminal justice or housing problems. Emotional safety is built in small, ordinary moments. When they cry and you say, "It's nothing, stop," their body learns that big feelings are a problem and that they might have to handle them alone. When you pause and say, "You're upset, I'm here," their system gets a different message. Feeling this way doesn't make me too much, and someone will stay with me while it passes. You will lose your cool at times. You will say things you wish you could take back. What matters is not perfection, but repair. "I'm sorry I shouted. That was scary. I love you and I'm trying again," tells their brain the relationship is still safe, even when humans make mistakes. A child who has learned, "I'm safe, I'm loved, I'm noticed," doesn't have to cling just to get through the day. Their energy can shift from simply coping to exploring, touching, tasting, testing, and trying again. Those little experiments are where real learning begins. Big feelings are one of the toughest parts of this stage for both kids and adults. Many parents were never shown what to do with anger, fear, or sadness themselves. So when their toddler screams because the blue cup is in the sink, the instinct is to shut it down. "Stop crying. You're fine. That's enough." You're trying to help them move on, but the hidden message becomes, "Your feelings are wrong. Come back when you fix them." Small children don't yet have the tools to do that alone. When feelings are pushed away instead of understood, they don't disappear. They show up later as bigger explosions or quiet shutdowns. Harvard's Center on the Developing Child describes this kind of ongoing, high, unbuffered stress as toxic stress and notes that it can disrupt the development of brain architecture and increase the risk of learning difficulties and stress-related health problems later in life. What helps more is emotional literacy, letting them know that all feelings are valid even when some actions are not. When you crouch beside them and say, "You're angry because you wanted that toy," or "You're sad because playtime ended," you're giving words to a storm they don't know how to explain. Validation doesn't mean anything goes. You can still hold limits. It's okay to feel mad. It's not okay to hit. I'm going to keep us both safe. The feeling is allowed and named. The behavior is gently redirected. Over time, children whose emotions are consistently acknowledged tend to steady more quickly. Their nervous system learns that feelings rise and fall, and they don't lose connection with you in the process. Before they can decode written symbols, they need to recognize what's happening inside their own body and give it a name. That's a kind of literacy they'll lean on for life. If you walk into a truly child-centered preschool, the most important work might look like chaos at first glance. Mud, sand, blocks, costumes, cardboard boxes, noisy games, and shifting storylines. But play isn't the break between real learning sessions. For young children, it is real learning. Think about a toddler trying to balance one more block on a wobbly tower. Their fingers are figuring out grip and pressure. Their eyes are tracking distance and angle. The thinking parts of their brain are running quiet experiments. Should the big block go at the bottom? Do I have to move slower? When the tower crashes and they fight the urge to fling the block, then pick it up again, they're practicing something else too, staying with a hard feeling and trying a new approach. All of that unfolds without a single worksheet. Unstructured, hands-on play is where the brain trains attention, memory, impulse control, and flexible thinking, skills that turn out to be far better predictors of how a child will handle school than how early they learn their letters. That's why so many early childhood specialists keep insisting that these years are for touching, climbing, pretending, pouring, building, and negotiating with other kids, not for long stretches of desk work. Pediatric and early education researchers group these together as executive function skills, and studies consistently find that children who start school with stronger executive function, not necessarily higher early test scores, tend to have better academic progress and classroom behavior years later. You don't need a packed calendar of enrichment classes or a room full of fancy toys. A patch of dirt, a few containers, some blocks, a blanket draped over a table, chalk on the sidewalk, these are more than enough raw material. What matters is that your child gets chunks of time where play isn't constantly interrupted or transformed into a quiz. The collapsing block tower, the argument over who gets the red bucket, the pretend restaurant that changes into a spaceship after 3 minutes, that's brain training for real life. Language grows in the same everyday way. You don't need a box of flashcards to build a strong vocabulary. The most powerful tool your child has is your natural conversation as you move through the day together. It's the way you describe things while you're doing them. In the kitchen, I'm washing the yellow cup, the water is warm, or you're sprinkling the cheese on top, it's falling like snow, quietly links words to colors, actions, textures, and feelings. On a walk, those leaves are crunchy under your feet, or I hear a loud siren, it's an ambulance driving past. Roots language in real sights and sounds. The words latch on because they're wrapped in context and connection, not floating alone on a card. An MIT-led study found that it wasn't just the number of words children heard that mattered, but the number of back-and-forth conversational turns with adults. Kids who experienced more of these two-way exchanges had stronger language scores and greater activation in brain regions for speech and comprehension. Stories and songs add another layer, not because they feel academic, but because they invite your child to think with you. When you pause and ask, "What do you think happens next?" or "How do you think he feels right now?" you're nudging them to imagine, predict, and take someone else's perspective. That kind of thinking will matter just as much later as sounding out syllables. This doesn't require a separate lesson time. It's more about shifting from a day filled only with commands, "Put on your shoes, we're late," to one that also includes small moments of noticing. These shoes are tricky today, you're really working hard on that buckle. Over the years, children soaked in this kind of responsive language usually become kids who speak with confidence, listen with care, and read with understanding because words have always been tied to real life and real emotions. The American Academy of Pediatrics actually calls play brain building, pointing to evidence that it supports executive functioning, early language and math skills, social development, physical health, and even helps reduce the impact of stress when children have time for free, self-directed play. Another quiet superpower you already have is something professionals call serve and return. It looks nothing like schoolwork. It looks like a game of back and forth that runs through your whole day. Your child serves by reaching out in some way. You return by responding. That rhythm shapes their brain more than most elaborate teaching plans. Harvard's Center on the Developing Child describes these back and forth, serve and return moments as the process that builds neural connections and sturdy brain architecture, especially in the systems for communication and social skills. A serve might be a glance, a squeal, a babble, a point, a word, or a hand on your arm. It's their way of saying, "Notice this," or "Notice me." When you answer with eye contact, a smile, a sound, a word, or a touch, you send a message that goes deeper than language. When I reach out, someone reaches back. Imagine you're on a walk and your toddler spots a dog, points and makes a sound. You follow their gaze and say, dog. In that instant, their brain connects the sound to that shape. Next time they might point again and say, duh. You respond, yes, dog, and the pathway gets a little thicker. Eventually, duh becomes dog, and it feels like they suddenly got it. What you didn't see were all the small serves and returns building that thread over time. You won't catch every serve, and you're not supposed to. You have things to do and moments where your own tank is empty. But when you're able, especially during calmer parts of the day, catching a few more of those bids for connection pays off. Each one is like another brick in the systems that handle sight, sound, and early communication. The key is to meet them where their attention already is. If they're pointing at a bird, talk about the bird. If they're fixated on a puddle, talk about the puddle. When you follow their focus instead of dragging it somewhere else to teach something, learning stays tied to curiosity instead of pressure. Play is another area where that follow, don't force approach can change everything. As soon as we hear that play matters, it can be tempting to sneak lessons into every game. Blocks turn into counting tools, toy cars into color drills, pretend kitchens into vocabulary tests. The desire comes from love. You want to make every moment count. But small children don't walk into playtime thinking, I'm here to perform. They enter like scientists and storytellers. They stack blocks, then suddenly decide one is a piece of cake and another is a phone because their mind is busy building a world that makes sense to them. If you jump in with, how many blocks is that? What color is this? You shift the focus away from their inner story and onto your checklist. The play often fizzles. Following their lead doesn't mean stepping back completely. It means joining the world they've already started to create. If a block becomes food for a dinosaur, pick up a block and feed your dinosaur too. If they hand you a doll and say, you rock the baby, you lean in and rock that doll like it's the most important task you have. When they turn the kitchen into a spaceship, you climb on board. Children who are allowed to stay immersed in their own play for longer stretches build dense networks across the brain. Movement skills, social understanding, emotion regulation, creativity, they're all being exercised at once. This is also where persistence gets practiced in real time. Games fall apart, plans need adjusting, friends say no, towers topple. Learning to stay with a project, regroup, and try again is far more valuable in the long run than being able to answer, "What number is this?" on cue. Another powerful thread in these years is how your child quietly builds their sense of self. Before age 4, they are constantly scanning your reactions to answer the question, who am I? The way you speak about them becomes the script they repeat inside their own head. It feels natural to say, you're so smart, or you're my clever one, when they do something that amazes you. It sounds like encouragement, but when smart becomes a label they cling to, it can make new challenges feel risky. If getting things right quickly is part of who they are, what happens the first time something doesn't come easily? Mistakes start to feel like proof that they aren't who they thought they were. Shifting your praise from fixed traits to effort and strategies gives them a different story to live in. You kept trying even when that puzzle was tricky. You came up with a new way to build it. You stuck with it, even when you were frustrated. These comments highlight what they did, not who they supposedly are. They show that success is something they can build, not something they either have or don't. Children who grow up hearing that kind of feedback are more likely to choose harder tasks, keep going after a setback, and see struggle as part of learning instead of a sign that they're no good at something. That mindset will matter just as much for friendships and feelings as it does for reading and math. Around all of this sits the emotional climate of daily life. Stress is unavoidable. Your child will get frustrated when something won't work, nervous around new faces, and disappointed when they don't get what they want. Those brief, manageable waves of emotion inside a caring relationship can actually help them grow. Their body learns that uncomfortable feelings don't last forever and that they are not alone with them. What tends to be harmful is stress that is intense, ongoing, and faced without enough support. When a young child's system is activated most of the time and there isn't a reliable adult to help them settle, their body never fully returns to calm. Over time, that constant state of alert can get in the way of the brain circuits that handle thinking, learning, and planning. You can't clear every obstacle out of their way, and you don't need to. What you can do is make their everyday world more predictable and grounded. Predictable doesn't mean rigid or joyless. It means there's a basic rhythm they can count on. Mornings flow into meals, then play, then rest, then more activity, then winding down. There are clear, kind boundaries instead of non-stop chaos. That rhythm helps their body relax because life feels less like a series of surprises. When their big feelings spill over, your role shifts from teacher to anchor. Co-regulation is just a fancy way of saying you lend them your calm until they can find their own. That might look like sitting nearby while they sob on the floor, saying quietly, "You're really frustrated right now," and staying with them until the storm softens. You don't have to fix the feeling or talk them out of it. In fact, a long speech in that moment usually makes it harder for them to settle. Your steady presence does the heavy lifting. Children who grow up with this combination of simple routines and responsive care don't need a packed schedule of stimulation to be okay. They benefit from slow mornings, unhurried walks, silly bedtime stories, and quiet minutes lying next to you staring at the ceiling. Their nervous system gets space to mature without being overwhelmed. Later, when school and life bring their own pressures, they carry an internal sense of how to come back to steady ground. All of this circles back to the same core truth. Before age 4, your child's brain is developing faster than it ever will again. This window won't repeat. The world is loud about when they should know their letters and how high they should count. It's softer on the things that matter even more. Whether they feel safe, whether they're learning to understand their own feelings, how rich their play is, what kinds of conversations fill your days, how you talk about effort, and whether your home has a rhythm that their little body can trust. You are not behind if your 3-year-old isn't reading. You are not failing because a neighbor's toddler can count farther. You are not raising a test score. You're raising a human being who needs to know, deep down, I am safe, I am loved, I am capable, long before anyone hands them a worksheet. You don't have to cram learning into these early years. You can focus on tending the roots. When a child feels secure, emotionally seen, free to play, and held by your steady presence, their brain naturally opens. Curiosity comes back. Focus is easier. Confidence turns from a performance into a quiet inner knowing, and when the time finally comes for ABC and 1, 2, 3, they don't just survive it, they're ready to enjoy it. So as you think about your own child today, you might ask yourself one gentle question. What is one small way I can lean a little more toward connection and a little less toward performance? Maybe it's catching one extra glance and answering it. Maybe it's letting a game stay a game instead of turning it into a test. Maybe it's trading "you're so smart" for "you worked really hard on that." If this perspective helped you breathe a bit easier about where your child should be, you're not alone. Share what you've noticed in your own home. Your story might be the reassurance someone else is searching for, and be sure to subscribe for more useful parenting advice like this.